Well, let's go back now to the comments made by Australia's Home Affairs Minister, and my colleague Khayelihle Khumalo was outside the High Commission of Australia today in Pretoria. Kaya, has there been an official word from the Australian High Commission today about the comments that were made by the Home Affairs Minister in his country?
Well, a very good evening to you, Goli. At this point in time, they haven't really issued out a statement or given out any reaction whatsoever. So what they've said is that they've taken all the queries to Australia, to Canberra. So the Australian government will eventually give out a statement or actually give a reaction. But obviously, there hasn't been any time frame given to that effect. But what we know for sure now is that the High Commissioner of Australia, accredited in Pretoria, has been demarched to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to really clarify exactly the stance of Australia in relation to the issue that has caused a huge debacle and an issue that may cause a diplomatic rupture between Pretoria and Canberra. So
it seems there is communication, therefore, between Australia and South Africa. Do we know what has been said thus far? Has there been any clarity provided to South African authorities thus far?
Well, at this point in time, Goli, they haven't really given out an indication in terms of the clarification from the side of the Australians. But in as far as the South African government, for example, is concerned, they've really shown how concerned they are. So they are saying Minister Dutton's remarks were very reprehensible, regrettable, and the Australian authorities ought to have used the diplomatic channels, because South Africa has been at pains to say, look, in as far as the issue of land expropriation without compensation, there won't be any, aggression meted out against white farmers. So there is no threat whatsoever. So there is no need to panic.
Before I go to perhaps some news reports that you may have come across, I'm not sure, what are South African authorities saying about this incident? What is international relations saying?
Well, look, essentially the Department of International Relations and Cooperation is reiterating that for those who really need clarities regarding the stance that South Africa has taken in reference to the land question, a very emotive issue, they are more than welcome to approach, for example, the department itself, or for example, also the new Minister of Land Reform and Rural Development, Maitenkwane Mashibane. So these two offices are opened for anyone who just wants to get an indication. But the point that they've also clarified is that land without expropriation, without compensation, will not be in a chaotic fashion.
And it'll be done.
Exactly.
I did pick up also, though, Kaya, that the spokesperson from International Relations saying that the comments by the Australian Minister of Home Affairs are both sad and regrettable. Have you picked up anything from the Australian side of things, whether it be news reports about that country, perhaps even issuing any comment at all about what has been said? Because this story has actually been carried by some international media.
Very much so. The story has certainly gained traction. Even when you look at the UK, for example, they're reporting extensively. But I'm afraid, Goli, when it comes to the Australian authorities, they haven't been really forthcoming in providing more information. So from their side, there has been a blackout of information. So they haven't really spoken out extensively. But what we understand, for example, about the side of the minister who is concerned here, they really know that there are elections coming up in Australia. So he comes from a right-wing side. So there wasn't any surprise, for example, when you look at from the perspective of some Australian journalists, they are saying that Minister Dutton comes from Queensland, and obviously he appeals from the side of the right-wingers, and that's a particular constituency that is really trying to just trying to galvanize more support into. And the whole issue of using the South African white farmers, it works perfectly for him. And we know for some time Australia, when it comes to immigration, for example, has been battling settling in some of the neighboring islands. There has been a lot of people flocking down under, and obviously they have some detention centers. Human rights violations, there has been a lot of issues reported there.
All right, thank you very much. It's a story that I'm sure you will keep tabs on. Thank you very much for that update. That was Khayelihle Khumalo, our reporter, talking to us about the comments made by Australia's Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Peter Dutton.